Hello, thank you for joining us today on this topic of discussion. Um, this House would legalize marijuana. Um, Marijuana is used for recreation as well as medicinal purposes. It has become legalized in several states already, but on the federal level, which is nationwide, it is still considered illegal, meaning that despite these states allow it, federally it is still considered illegal, and federally you can still get charges for it. The criteria we're going to fall under is the personal or community benefits of legalizing marijuana, as well as the financial and net benefits of legalizing it. Um, some of the harms that come the from marijuana being illegal is that it increases prison rates, which are already at a very high number in our country, as well as it targets minorities and people of color to be arrested and to receive charges. Um, this is kind of an excuse to allow law enforcement to target and incarcerate minorities, which increases not only the prison rates but increases the minority prison rates. Um, it has been shown that statistically blacks are 3.7 times more likely to be arrested for marijuana charges than whites, which is a large amount. And considering about 4 in 10 drug arrests are all for marijuana charges, and 9 in 10 of those arrests are for possession only, without not selling it, not manufacturing it, nonviolent crimes, nothing but having marijuana on your personnel, which equals up to about 600,000 arrests a year, which is a large number of arrests considering how populated our prisons currently are. Um, these arrests also impact the lives of these people, primarily on minorities, because after they go to prison, after they get their charges, it shows up on their record. They may not be allowed to get certain jobs, they may not be allowed to do certain work, and which will increase overall the unemployment rate as well as increasing the poverty rate for these minority communities. Since they're not able to get jobs, they're not able to make so much money, and they're not able to leave where they are, or they're not able to make it out where they are, meaning more higher unemployment and higher poverty rates. When in turn, police could be spending their time instead of on these drug arrests doing much more important things. Um, Considering the ongoing racial problems we have at the moment, this is one that should not be here since it targets minorities. It further increases their arrest charges, further makes them look worse than they really should be, considering the fact that more minorities are arrested for marijuana when in reality everyone uses it the same and the same amount of people use it. Another harm of marijuana being illegal is how much money is really spent on it and how much money could be saved from it. A large amount of money, close to actually over $7 billion a year, is spent on aid to law enforcement for this fight against marijuana. Over $7 billion, when in reality that $7 billion could be used for anything else and be used much more worthwhile. Um, this war on marijuana, especially the war on drugs, but the war on marijuana especially, has been found to not even be useful since it hasn't lowered the rates of marijuana, it hasn't lowered the circulation of marijuana, it has really done nothing. So, regardless if marijuana is considered a problematic drug or not, it still is a waste of time, waste of resources, waste of money. Um, So $7 billion out of the 40 billion spent on this war on drugs, which is another topic of discussion, but 7 billion is spent on that, and not only just for from taxpayers to law enforcement, but those who receive these charges, who receive these arrests, have to pay hundreds of dollars to thousands of dollars in their charges and their tickets, as well as paying for lawyers to be in court and as well as paying their time for having to go to prison, which is time, and time is a lot more important than money, and that time will never be given back, and which will further increase problems for those people later on because of their incarceration for plainly having marijuana on them. This large amount of money could be spent anywhere else, and it would be more useful than it is being spent on this war on marijuana. Um, some discerning facts that the other side might show is that marijuana is an illegal substance, an illegal drug that impairs the ability of people, that risks the safety of those. However, statistics have shown that marijuana, very few have even overdosed from it, very few accidents, very few crimes are committed due to marijuana use, considering other drugs actually enact people to commit crimes as well as do worse things. I mean, for instance, alcohol has been one of the highest problems for accidents and for deaths related to accidents. Meanwhile, alcohol has been legal for decades now, and marijuana hasn't even come close to any of those same statistics, and it is illegal, and it still has been illegal. Our plan would be to legalize it federally, to put a tax on it, which would increase tax revenue, and make marijuana, for the most part, as accessible as alcohol and tobacco, which would still have to follow state guidelines, considering what age you have to buy it and this and that. As well as those incarcerated or those who have current charges on it would be absolved of these charges and be released from prison, allowing them to, get back the lives they had for a simple thing that doesn't need to cause these problems for them. Legalizing it would take out one more aspect of racism in our country and allow law enforcement to not be able to target these minorities for it, which would give us one step closer to unity as well as equality in our country. It would also save billions of dollars in resources, as well as create billions of dollars from the tax revenue generated from legalizing it and selling it and taxing it. So for the advantages of this, legalizing marijuana would decrease the poverty rate, decrease the unemployment rate, as well as decrease the targeting of minorities. It would save billions of dollars as well as generate billions of dollars, making it almost a win-win. Not only is it going to save us money, but it's going to make us a lot of money too, considering the fact that taxpayers pay for law enforcement and for law enforcement resources, and to think that it's being spent on something that's completely useless and has done nothing but create more problems and more wasted money. I would definitely not want to spend my money for that. Prisons would be less populated, and less populated with minorities especially, which is already a problem in itself of how overpopulated our prisons are for ridiculous reasons such as marijuana possession. And it would lower the racial divide amongst our country, which is at the moment one of the most prevalent and important issues that's going on at the moment. My final statement concerning that is that with the problems currently circulating in our country, considering the war on drugs, the police reform, the racial divide, it would be important to focus not only our attention, but law enforcement's attention to other bigger problems, since marijuana has really not even been a problem or ever been considered a problem. And meanwhile, the worst someone can do while high off marijuana is either eat too much or sleep too long, which, of course, in some cases can happen otherwise, and of course should always be used responsibly. But considering all this, this House supports the federal legalization of marijuana.